organised religion was frustrating me quite deeply. I found it was too restrictive. It was enforced that if we were doing a funeral, that there had to be a Bible reading, there had to be all of these things. The word religion actually comes from the Latin term religare, which simply means to gather or to bind. I thought, that's it. That's it. A funeral is about the person who has died, but it's for the benefit of the people who are still here.
Charles, it's great to sit down with you to learn about you. I've heard lots about you. We are here at Heritage Brothers Crematorium. Could you just, for those watching or listening, give those people an understanding of the setting that we're in?
We cater to the needs of people in northern New South Wales and the southern Gold Coast. So we're right on the New South Wales-Queensland border.
Could you give us a bit of an insight into how you got involved in funerals?
So my background prior to this was with the Anglican Church. I'd been a lifelong Anglican. I started going to church because my mum and dad took me to church.
Yeah.
And so I'd had that association all the way through my teenage years. In my early 20s, one of the ministers in my local area, which is Newcastle, down near Sydney in New South Wales, planted the idea of when was I going to become a priest.
Yeah.
And I laughed it off and said, yeah, right, you've got to be joking. I don't want to be one of those. So I spent 3 years at college after having said in my teenage years that I was never going to university.
Yeah.
I did my degree in theology and I was ordained as a deacon in the Anglican Church, so deacons, priests, bishops.
Yeah.
There's the sort of threefold, what they call the threefold order of ministry. I remained a deacon. A lot of people automatically went on to become a priest in the Anglican Church. Just before COVID, and it wasn't connected to COVID, but just before COVID, I resigned from the Anglican Church. I guess I got to a point where organised religion was frustrating me quite deeply. I felt there was still the need to connect with people about spirituality and the nature of the divine and all of those things, but I found it was too restrictive. So I left ministry and I had about 6 months off. I worked for myself for a little while, and then it was during COVID that one of the team here at Heritage Brothers contacted me. I knew the Heritage team because as a minister with the church, I'd been on the other side of funerals.
Of course.
And then Wes had a conversation with me one day and said, our business is growing, we need some more full-time staff, would you be interested in coming on as a funeral director? And so I've been with them for 3.5 years now.
On the podcast, we've spoken a lot about how society is changing, how it's evolving, and also how the church, how important it is with our grief and how it can help us with our bereavements, but also why there is this big decline in the church. So in the United Kingdom, we are seeing over half the UK population now, this is from the most recent census, who are no longer religious or have no religion. Why do you think this is?
I think with the expansion of the way society engages, with the way that we take in our knowledge, and it's changed so much even just in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
The church once upon a time had a real monopoly on birth, death and marriage.
Yeah.
And it was just a given that you would go through those rites of passage within organised religion and within that institution. What I've seen over my time within the church and beyond it is more and more people questioning the parameters around which you are granted access.
Yes, the infrastructure.
The infrastructure, the things that you're expected to subscribe to or to espouse in order to be granted membership of organised religion.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people in our current time find that highly problematic. That's not questioning people's sense of faith or spirituality, because I think faith and spirituality, it's like a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
I think faith and spirituality exist, organised religion exists, and where that crossover used to be a lot bigger in the centre. I think those two are moving further and further away.
Well, I think probably the church would facilitate faith and the religion, whereas now, like you say, it's now pushing further afield. I feel that I am very spiritual, but I don't feel like I need to go to church to have that that sort of space to consider that. And actually, I'm working now closer with a retired, well, due to ill health, vicar called Gary Ward, who's now part of our team at Perry and Phillips in Bridgnorth in Shropshire in the UK. And he and I have very similar conversations. So it's fascinating talking to you because the conversation is so similar. And he found the same as well, that he felt the structure around him, he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do for that fulfillment.
Yeah.
So I suppose the question I now have to you is, do you get fulfillment in the role that you have now?
Absolutely. I feel this role for me is a lot more authentic because I can meet people where they are at rather than expecting certain things of them to allow them in. So when I was a minister with the Anglican Church, it was not only an assumption but enforced that if we were doing a funeral, that there had to be a Bible reading from the Old Testament and the New Testament, there had to be a sermon, there had to be all of these things. This is just what happens. And within that, yeah, sure, we're here to grieve about this person, so we can have a eulogy and we can possibly have a slideshow. There are still churches in Australia that debate whether or not a slideshow is appropriate, because in some churches they will say we're here to glorify God, not people. I really struggle with that.
Isn't God and people together?
And this is one of the areas where I have fallen out with institutional religion because I feel that the divide it's being perpetuated on both sides, I guess. People who are dismissing organised religion, but organised religion in many places is dismissive of those who aren't prepared to be on board with them. If you're not prepared to sign up, then that's fine, but we won't engage with you. Whereas I find now, as a funeral director, I can sit down with a family and say, how can we serve you? How can we help bring together a celebration of life and a mourning of a death that is going to work for you as a family? And we can start with a clean slate. Rather than starting with a laundry list of expectations and then saying, now we can salt and pepper that with a little bit of your thing. So yes, it's much more fulfilling for me because if people have a faith, if they have a background in organised religion, I can speak that language and I can still do that in a respectful way and journey with those people, whether it's Catholic or Anglican or Baptist or Mormon or whatever it is. I have that dialect as a part of my understanding, and so I can journey with those people in that particular way, but it doesn't have to be that.
I just find it fascinating. We'll move on now, but just my observation is that you went into the church to do what you're doing now almost, and that's about serving people.
Yes. This is very much a vocation. I don't see it as gainful employment or a profession. I see it as a vocation or a calling.
I agree.
And so it's probably taken me a while to get to the point of being able to validate that. But having lived through the church experience, I still feel like I am ministering to people. I'm still serving them, but I'm serving them in a way that I actually believe Jesus was all about, which was meeting people where they are rather than expecting them to come to him. And that seems to be part of where organised religion has fallen away. I'll give you my philosophy on life now, having lived through what I've lived through, because I had this kind of revelation a number of years ago now, and it was through listening to Father Richard Raw, who's a Catholic monastic priest from the United States. He was talking about religion, and he said the word religion actually comes from the Latin term religare, which simply means to gather or to bind. And something in me just stopped. I couldn't listen to any more, and I thought, that's it. That's it. One of the most common phrases I hear from people is, I'm not religious, but... And then they'll describe religion, but they don't want to be a part of organised religion in its different forms. That sense of to gather or to bind, if that's at the heart of what it means to be religious, then we are all religious.
Yes, we are.
Because loneliness is the most crippling, and we saw that during COVID, that loneliness is one of the most crippling conditions that the human soul can be subjected to.
Yes.
So in this country, sport is a religion by definition, because people gather to celebrate wins together and to mourn losses together.
Yeah.
They dress in their vestments. People process onto the pitch or the park or the field or whatever it is. They sing the national anthems. We do the welcome to country. We have all the elements of organised religion, but because it's not Christianity or because it's not focused on God, we don't call it religion. I actually think it is.
Yeah, I do as well. You have grown men who don't know each other, but holding each other.
Yeah.
And
embracing and that physical touch and that coming together. It's, and AFL, Australian Football League, is probably the biggest sport in this country. People in Melbourne in particular are just so fanatical for it. You'll get 100,000 people to the Melbourne cricket ground just for a regular weekend game, and I know the English Premier League's very similar.
Yeah.
Like what an example of religious behaviour.
Yeah.
When people come together, they sing. I love the singing in the English Premier League.
Yeah.
And even at the cricket, when the Ashes is either here or over there, and you hear the English cricket fans, and they're all singing and just loving the experience together.
Recently, that's a Liverpool Football Club, who are obviously huge institution and a religion. One of their football players, Diego Jota, he died sadly in a car incident. And to watch how the football community all over the country and world come together, it's very powerful, very moving.
It's a gathering for a
people.
common purpose.
And for me personally, actually, my biggest satisfaction is through bringing people together. I think it's the most biggest. I don't think you can actually replicate it in anything else. A win is better together.
Yes.
If that's through a business, doing things together to achieve something. And I think most people in a business who are achieving something, it's not about money. It's about coming together to achieve a result.
Absolutely.
So there's like that element of it. And actually, going back to Jesus again, someone told me that he was actually for the making of money to do more good work with, which is very interesting as well. And also I play five-a-side football. We're the old boys in the league now, but we won the league 2 years ago. And again, playing together, being together, there's no feeling like it.
No.
So it's fascinating to hear you talk about that. I wasn't aware that's what it meant.
Jerry Seinfeld once said, it's not the movie, it's going to the movies.
Yes.
Similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's the shared experience that is so important. And for me, that's what's at the heart of what we call religion. So gathering at coffee shops and restaurants, we're told that there's a global financial crisis, and yet people in the Gold Coast are out to dinner so often, spending so much more for a meal than they would if they cooked at home.
Yeah.
Shared experience. Cafes and restaurants, shared experience. Shopping centres, shared experience.
A funeral service.
Shared experience.
And you're using the word experience. So I sat down with Don Bursko yesterday, and we spoke a lot about experience. And this is a word now I think we need to introduce more into our profession. The funeral can't be defined by a moment, in my opinion. It can't be defined by an act. I think it's about the experience someone feels when they are in your care.
Yeah.
What's your view on this?
Yeah. Well, I still struggle with, we still talk about a funeral service.
Yes.
And quite often that's what puts people off, and they'll say, I'm not religious, because they think a service means you're talking about religion.
Yeah.
So I try to talk to people about a funeral experience, or a sense of, how are we going to put together this gathering celebration, because that word gathering is so important to me. This experience that people are going to gather for, what elements would you like to include? And it's all of the religious things again. It's, music.
Yeah.
It's listening to somebody speak about the person that they love. It's watching the images that evoke the emotions that are so important.
What I'm smiling about is I'm sort of comparing, is the funeral service, like we're talking about being together, the community, the contacts, the going to the events, and the event is the football match.
Yes.
So Liverpool Football Club, they're playing the match. Is the match like the funeral? And actually going to the game and singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," is actually part of the experience of that
Absolutely.
event.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's all interconnected. And this is where it brings, getting goosebumps.
I am as well. I've never seen it in this way.
Yeah. And it brings me so much hope for now and the future. We haven't really got the message out there about the language enough yet. But I see people as being incredibly spiritual and incredibly connected and incredibly open to the possibility of what might be beyond the here and now.
Yeah.
What doesn't fit is the language that is used by organised religion, because it then confines it to a particular. It's like the old Monty Python. Are you the Judean people's front? No, we're the people's front of Judea.
Yes.
What's the difference? But it's these degrees of separation that are so problematic.
And we're seeing a disconnect with language in the funeral profession as well. I say funeral profession, that's the wrong wording, around death and dying and a funeral, because we're using the word they've passed away, we're using the word they've slipped away, or they've gone to sleep, or they're in a better place. So again, religion, language, connection, disconnect, funeral services, language, disconnect, and actually is our inappropriate communication and language creating more of a divide in a funeral?
Yeah, I think so. And it's part of what we've observed, and I'm sure it's worldwide, but COVID caused a huge increase in the number of what we call direct cremations.
Yep.
It was as if people felt like they were given permission to not have to have a funeral. The flip side of that is that there's no gathering.
Yes.
There's no shared experience of grieving a loss and celebrating a life, and you can't put a price on that.
No.
So all of these people who are opting for nothing and just, you do it all and you return the ashes to us when it's all over and done with, we're finding that a lot of those people are coming back to us still in grief because they've never moved through it, because they've never had the opportunity to gather, to mourn, to face death, because we don't like using the word death. No. We don't like saying they've died, they are dead.
Yeah.
We use all of the words that you were talking about before. And so there's something even in funeral, I call it funeral ministry, but that's just me.
Yeah.
There's something in funeral ministry that we're still missing, because sometimes we're not pushing what we could to help people come to what they need.
Yeah.
So from time to time I'll sit with a family who, the person who has died said they didn't want anything, just put me in a cardboard box and burn me. The family, when they gather for the funeral arrangement interview with me, are really labouring with that. And they're like, this was our mum. I feel it's really disrespectful, but we want to honour mum's wishes.
Yeah.
And so that's when I say, okay, there's an important distinction here. A funeral is about the person who has died, but it's for the benefit of the people who are still here. That sense of gathering still has a place. Doesn't have to be a service. And so one of the things that we can offer here, because we own the crematorium, is what we call a garden farewell, where people can still gather. They don't have a formal service where everybody sits in chairs, but they gather together in our car park out the front, in the gardens, and a hearse comes in with the coffin in the back, and we open the back of the hearse, and family grieve together. Yeah. And they place flowers, and they might play a piece of music, and it might only take them 15 minutes, but it's still a moment in time that is important for them to connect with, to face the reality, that's our loved one, and they have died.
Yeah.
And we need to embrace that and work through that rather than just ignore it or shove it off in the corner.
Acknowledgement and accepting.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I have a huge favour to ask. Please click the thumbs up on the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, a huge thanks to our sponsors, whose details are found in the video description just below. Thank you all. So we know this. How do we provide, I think it's that hope. What can we do to push that message out there to show people why this is so important?
For me, it starts with the one-on-one conversations. So a conversation like this, which potentially will reach a lot of people, may provoke some rethinking. I'm not naive enough to think that it's very difficult to get people to change their minds when they're in a particular place. I remember doing funeral training a couple of years ago down in Sydney, and one of the gentlemen who was running it said, for those of you who are new to the funeral industry, if you're working for people who have been in the industry a long time, my condolences, because people who have been in the industry a long time can be the worst people to face and embrace change and adapt to new ways of expressing and new ways of, because it's harder work. It's harder work to be creative.
I was about to use the word creativity, isn't it? Really, being creative in our methods.
Yeah.
We adapt more to the needs of the person, and therefore allowing them to move forward better in a better way with their grief.
Yeah. So every time we have a funeral here, I think it's a ripple effect in the same way that lots of significant change that happens in the world, it starts with a small group of dedicated people who want to see something happen in a different kind of way. And so every time people come here for a funeral experience, quite often people walk out and go, that's one of the best funerals that I've been to. And so I'll have those conversations. What did you like about it? What did you connect with? Well, it wasn't religious. It was fun. People were allowed to laugh. We were allowed to clap at the end of people's speeches. People were never allowed to do that. Expression, feeling a sense of involvement and participation.
Community.
Yep. And we had a small gathering of people. It would have only been a dozen people in our large chapel one day. They wanted to gather to honour the person who had died. They'd chosen a raw wood coffin. They were all red wine drinkers. And so we put the coffin in the room, and they came into the room, and they had a playlist of music, and they drank red wine, and they actually poured red wine onto the top of the coffin, put their hands in the puddle of red wine, and then put their handprints on the raw wood all around the coffin. So they decorated it as they went. Wow. That's a funeral.
Yeah.
There were no speakers, there was no celebrant, there were none of the traditional elements. We use the word tradition in our industry as well. There were none of those elements, but that was a funeral experience because those people gathered to share their grief and share their joy at a life that they were impacted by and a life that they lost. That's a funeral.
It excites me. It excites me about what it can be.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, and I've seen that actually. Some of the most powerful moments I've seen don't cost anything. It's just a moment of connection and creativity.
Yep. So, when you prioritise the time and space to focus on these things that are important, it can be so powerful, and it doesn't have to look a certain way or sound a certain way. Yeah. And so it brings me a lot of joy to be able to sit with families, and they'll say, "Oh, what do people normally do?" I say, "There's no such thing as normal. What do you need to do?"
Yeah.
And if that means more work for us in the background, I feel really blessed to be a part of Heritage Brothers because Wes and Ashley give us a lot of scope to be creative.
Yes.
And experiment with different ways of helping people to gather and to share their important times.
Again, the more creative you can be, the more you can help families.
Yeah.
So it goes hand in hand.
Yep. And then all of the people that come, it's not just about the immediate family in those circumstances, and this certainly isn't in the forefront of my mind at the time because I'm not a salesman or a marketing person. That's not my focus. But for every person who comes to one of those newer, more creative experiences, they go away going, we went to a funeral and it was so different. Yeah. And then they talk to other people about it. And then we get phone calls from other people. I was at a funeral that was done a few months ago. And yep, if that's the sort of thing that you would like to do, we can definitely help you do that as well. And that's the ripple effect. I think it's going to take a while.
It's organic, isn't it? That's the thing.
It is, yeah.
You've talked about what can be achieved from creativity, community, connection, coming together, the importance, which is the whole purpose of this whole podcast, is to try and deliver a message about what is possible and actually how we can find growth through grief. For someone though who's recently bereaved or their person is dying at the moment, what advice would you give them now?
I had a situation of this very recently where we sometimes get calls about what we call pending funerals for families who reach out ahead of time to say, we don't know what to do. And so, well, you've done the right thing, you've called us. A funeral director doesn't just direct a service or a ceremony. We're here to guide you through the whole process from the point of a person dying or even before them dying. We're here to guide you all the way through. The ceremony is just one small piece of the puzzle. But I quite often talk to people about, and there's been a lot of research done on anticipatory grief. The fact that even before someone dies, it's important to embrace the fact that, yeah, they're dying. Don't be frightened of it. Don't run away from it. You're grieving now, and that's okay. And it's actually important.
Yeah.
If you try and hide it away, or you try and push it down, or you try and distract yourself with any number of distractions that we have very easy access to, it will only do you a disservice.
Yeah.
So we're here to answer any practical or other questions that you might have, but start that gathering process now. Start talking to your loved one about what would they want. Talk about their funeral with them.
Yes.
Some people find that a lot more confronting than others. It sounds easy, but I understand that it's not. But I encourage people to be open about the process. They've come to us and we can give advice. It's up to them whether they take it. But that's what I try to encourage with people right at that first contact. Have those conversations, ask those difficult questions. And we've got resources and booklets that we can provide people so that they can talk about some of the practicalities. But my main message to people is don't be frightened of the fact that you're already fearful and confused and angry and all of those things. This is what grief looks and feels like.
Yeah.
It's okay.
No, thank you, Chaz. My last question to you is about the future. Are you fearful or are you hopeful?
I'm very hopeful. Very hopeful because of a lot of the things that we've discussed already. I think that while organised religion isn't necessarily fulfilling what it did a few decades ago or generations ago, I still have a great deal of faith in the human spirit.
Yes, me too.
And in our ability to find expression, no matter what it's called. Sometimes language is the biggest barrier for us because we pigeonhole things, or we tend to be very binary in our thinking. You're in or you're out, you're good or you're bad.
Yes.
You're Liverpool or you're Arsenal, or whatever it might be. But underneath that, there's a deeper layer that's about connection and togetherness. And anytime there's a disaster, anytime there's a natural disaster or a terrorist attack or whatever it might be, you watch the way people come together and hug people and help people that they've never met before and will probably never meet again. And there's something deeply, deeply in us, which I would call godly.
Yeah.
It's that godly connection, that goodness that is at the very heart of who we are.
Yeah.
That I don't think that will ever be snuffed out.
Chaz, thank you so much. I feel so privileged to talk to you. And in that conversation that we've had, you've allowed me to see God a lot clearer, what it can be. And thank you. I'm truly grateful for that.
You're very welcome.
It's taken me to come to Australia to find those answers.
Well, one of my teachers, and I say teachers, I never met him, but John Philip Newell, who's a Celtic spirituality teacher from Ireland, I remember him saying in a podcast actually quite a while ago that the problem with the word God is that we use it as if we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the reality is so much bigger than anything that we can describe.
Yes.
And so I still feel very comfortable embracing that reality and that divinity and that mystery without having to put very specific labels on it. And that's a part of what gives me hope.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Absolute privilege and pleasure.
You're welcome.